All right. This are two different clays that I was talking about here. We've got that nice clay from the construction site. It's a really smooth and more of a cleaner clay overall. Even though there's a bunch of rocks and stuff in it, I'm gonna show you how to get that stuff out. Over here is the clay from my backyard that kind of has a bunch of stuff in it. It's kind of like sandy. So I actually don't know how well this is going to work, but we're going to give it a shot anyway. These clays are totally dried out. I let them dry for about 2 days. I actually put a fan on these big chunks here, and they're really, really dense. So what can happen is you really have to break these apart. And so what I'm doing here is I'm just kind of taking my hammer and I'm just kind of tapping them so that you break the bonds apart. So if you get them into these little pieces, then we can throw them in a bucket of water and rehydrate them. The other thing that you can do while you're breaking down your clay is you can pull out stones and other types of sediment and stuff. You want to get these little rocks and pebbles out of it, and you just want to separate those, and you could probably just throw those back in a field or back in your yard or whatever you want to do with them. They're part of nature, so you're not going to do anything wrong. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue just hammering this down. If you are in a closed area like I am, it is recommended that you probably wear some sort of mask or some sort of dust. This isn't a whole lot of clay, so you can kind of get away with it. If you're outside, that'd probably be better. That's something that I would recommend. I'm doing this inside my shop right now. It's just easier to work with the tools that I have. So anyways, all you're really going to need to break this down is just like a hammer or even like a stone or just something that you can really put a little bit of force onto the clay, and it will slowly, it'll just kind of break apart really, really easily. So you don't need to hit it real hard or really try to smash it or anything. So there's a couple of different ways to do this. I mean, I get these chunks here, which will be fine. They'll rehydrate and slake down. But if you really want to get a consistent material, then we'll have to screen it. And I thought I had my screen next to me, but I guess I don't. I would do that outside. And excuse me, you'll see in some of the videos that I've shown you, or with the African potters, they actually screen there and sift their material, and basically what that does is it helps you acquire the finest of particles, and then you can get like a really nice even clay. They obviously do not have access to respirators or anything like that, so they are outside. I'd recommend that if you do have some sort of screen capability, that you absolutely do that outside, and I probably would have a mask on. So that's going to be the next step. I'm going to show you how I would screen my material just to try and keep the particle size as consistent as possible. Well, the next step here is to tamp out your clay, try and pulverize it to a really fine material. This is how I would do it if I could. If you have these capabilities, if you have an area like I do right outside of my shop here, I've got this old concrete slab here where an oil reservoir used to sit for the furnace. So it's a nice open area. There shouldn't be too much issues with dust. But if you're ever feeling, iffy about it, you should always wear a respirator. You know, breathing in clay dust that has silica in it, so it can cause respiratory damage over long periods of time. So, being the responsible educator, I'll put on my respirator. Okay. Now it's not putting up too much dust, so I'm doing all right here. I also have this tamp, so if you have a tamp, you can really kind of get a lot. That actually creates a lot of dust, so I would probably wear my respirator using that. But you know, if you don't have something like that, and you have a piece of wood or something, or even like you know, a brick or a stone or something like that. A log, like if you have a tree where the limbs fell out or something, you can use something like that. It's basically like a mortise and pestle type of situation. And I'm just going to kind of use this. This is working pretty good, actually. I can really get a lot of localized pressure and really create a fine powder. That's the goal, is to try and tamp out as much as possible to be as fine as possible. Watch out for splinters. Maybe I'll use this end. It will also expose any types of pebbles or rocks in your materials, so then you can just kind of pick those out. It's just part of the refinement process. This is definitely taking it to the next level. You know, refining your material like this will help create a more cohesive clay body at the end. But it's absolutely not totally necessary. If you get your clay down into like small pieces, you could put those in a bucket of water, and they'll slake down, and you can make some nice clay from that as well. So I'm just going to keep tamping this out. Remove any rocks that I see before I break them into the clay. And I'll take my time doing this. Make sure I get a good material. And then the next part of the process is going to sift all this. If I really want to get a fine particle and real consistent, then I can run it through a screen.
In my bed, trying to stop these demons that keep dancing in my head. Down with disease, and I'm up before the dawn. 1,000 barefoot children outside, dancing on my lawn. Dancing on my lawn. Waiting for the time when I can finally see this has all been wonderful, but now I'm on my way. When I think it's time to leave it all behind, I try to find a way to, but there's nothing I can say to make it stop.
Okay, so the next step here is to sift all this out. Now, I've got this screen that goes into one of my screen doors, but you know, it's going to donate itself to our calls today. But I'm going to be really careful because I want to reuse this in my door. And so I'll be sure to make sure I give it a thorough cleaning before I put it back in, so that I don't get any clay anywhere around my house. Now you can see underneath it I've got this wok. This is a really handy tool for a lot of my vessel construction, but it's going to serve as a great catch basin for all of my sifted material. The other thing, and it doesn't sit very well, but maybe if I do something like this. Ooh, okay, hold on. I got another one of those. Okay, there we go. The other thing about this is I'm actually absolutely going to use a respirator for this. This is going to create a lot of dust, and I recommend that you take your health seriously. So I'm just going to do this for a little while. I probably won't be able to talk, so you just have to watch. Now you can see, got a lot of nice material here. That didn't take a whole lot of effort. That took me, 30 minutes at most. All the material that sifted out, that didn't fall through the screen, we can put back down and reuse, and I can just keep pulverizing that and just keep using it, keep sifting it. Eventually, until I just, get down to nothing but rocks and pebbles. Excuse me. So, anyways, the other thing too that I didn't mention about the screen is that you don't want something that's too tight. A window screen has a large enough space for the particles to really fall through, but you're going to get really, really nice fine particles, and you're also going to get a wide variety. You might let some larger pebbles or something get down in there that might act as what we refer to as grog or sand, something that gives the material conglomeration, if there is such a word. Anyways, what that will do is it will add stability and flexibility in the drying firing process. So got a lot of really nice material here, and we're going to move along to the next step. Yeehaw. Okay, now the last step here is to put this clay in this water, and I'm just going to let it soak overnight so it really hydrates, and then I'll take it out of the water and start letting it stiffen and age. I'm going to try and let it age for as long as possible. I'll take a look at it, see how things, are advancing, and perhaps I'll put some grog in it, perhaps I won't, I don't know. We'll see how things go. So that'll be the next video. So here we go.